Knowing your future owner role isn't enough. You have to commit to it. Operate, step back, or sell. Those are the ones. Whichever path you've chosen, your business won't follow until you start acting like it's real, and you have to do it today. Stick with me to the end, and I'm going to show you the structural and financial and cultural guardrails that make your decision really unshakable. And we'll connect it to the brand control system that is there to protect your business once you step back. I'm Brett from BrettCPayne.com. And what I do is help founders stop drifting and start leading their business towards the role they actually want to play. If you've already decided where you're headed, this is where you stop waiting and start building like it's already happening. You've got to be that architect. I talk about that a lot. It's not just about being the builder. You've got to architect your future, architect your business. This is about ownership of your future, your structure, and your signals, not a plan that you're going to tweak a little bit later, but a covenant. It's a real commitment that you're going to stand on. I want to give you several layers of this covenant that will help you know how to get from where you are to where you're going. And you're going to do it at the beginning, not at the end. Layer number one, keeping your options open is just fear dressed up. I remember when people would talk to me about, hey, Brett, what's your exit plan? I would say, I don't know. We'll just kind of figure that out when we get there. That was the wrong answer, because what happens is that if you start to think like that, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing in your business, then it's just fear gripping you because you're scared to make the wrong decision, or you're scared to be honest with yourself about what you want. That's the hesitation that leaks into your team. They're going to sense that from you. And when they sense you hedging these bets on where you're going with the company, they start to hedge too, don't they? They start to kind of keep their options open. If a better opportunity comes along, maybe I'll go there. If somebody gives me a call, or my old boss, or maybe I just don't know if I want to stick with this person when I don't know if they're solid in their decision about where they're taking this company. And suddenly the whole business, it gets stuck in limbo because everyone feels like they're kind of in this part-time gig and they're following your leadership. They're waiting on a version of you that really hasn't arrived. The truth is that leaving your options open keeps you trapped halfway. You have to make a decision very early on in what you're doing, and that is layer number one. Layer number two, you have to make it irreversible. Do you want momentum? You've got to burn the back door. One of the ways that I describe that is, everybody kind of knows this story about Cortez and when he came to North America, and whether you know the whole history of that or not, I don't want to get into that kind of detail. But we do know that historically we've heard that when he arrived on the North American continent, that the first thing he did was get everybody off the ships, and then he set the ships on fire, the boats on fire. Well, why did he do that? So we have this phrase about burn the ships, right? If you want to make it irreversible, if you want to have momentum, then you got to burn the ships. You got to burn the back door. And what does this mean for you in a business? This means rewriting your job description and handing it off. I remember when I was in the Ukraine, I went there in the early 90s, and I was there for most of the 90s building an infrastructure of university campuses. And while I did that, I had this in my head: I can't do this for the rest of my life. I have to create the job so I can pass it off to people who actually grew up in the Ukraine and live there, because they're going to do a way better job than some American that's sitting there doing these kind of processes. You've got to do the same thing with your business. You've got to rewrite your job description and hand it off to somebody else eventually, to be prepared to do that. The other thing is, you have to publicly declare your role changing to your team. You have to explain to them, this is where I am, this is where I'm going, because they have to be able to track with it. Now, it may be that you want to stay there for the rest of your life. They've got to know that. If it is to sell the company, they've got to know that. You're not going to scare them by telling them these things. And that's part of what we feel as owners or as founders, is that we're going to scare off our team by telling them, like, this is the plan. They get a little bit nervous about those kinds of things. But you've got to publicly declare it to them, because it's going to give them security and knowing that you know what you're doing. And the third thing is, you've got to block off your calendar to reflect your new role. That's very, very important. As an architect, you're building your calendar to mirror what your role is going to be. The commitment isn't a memo. It's an action that you can't undo. And if you're ready to build your business around your chosen future, which I hope you are not just talk about it, but actually do it, hit the subscribe button. I post weekly strategies to help you lead with clarity. Layer number 3, from plan to covenant. Do you know what a covenant is? It's a promise that you're making with yourself, right? Maybe it's a promise you're making with your family. It's a promise you're also making with your future self. A plan can shift. That can always happen, but a covenant gets honored. A covenant gets honored. It doesn't matter how you get there necessarily. It's that you keep your promise to yourself here and your promise to yourself in the future. This is really about treating your role as non-negotiable. It's structuring your calendar, your systems, your leadership. So there's no fallback. I know where I am. I know where I'm going. Be honest with yourself. If your team watched your last 90 days, the last 3 months of your life, would they actually know what path you have chosen? Is that clear as day to them? Or would they go, I don't know. I just show up for work. I have no idea where this thing is going. I don't know where we are and I don't know where we're going. As a leader, you've got to make that shift because that is part of the growth of your business. Layer number 4, legal moves the signal that you're serious. Commitment isn't just emotional, it's structural. So that might look something like this: changing your ownership agreements. You've got to put these legal things in place. I have done that multiple times. You've got to keep on top of these things. When you have your legal documents, make sure you've got them all organized very, very nicely. Make sure that you've got all of your operating agreements, that they're always up to date, that you know what the cap table is, who owns what. Hopefully you own the majority of it. You've got to have these things in place. It also might look like just filing updated legal documents, just making sure everything is updated, especially your operating agreement, especially vesting agreements that you might have with partners or things like that. It could be prepping for due diligence if a sale is ahead. So one of the things, if you're thinking about selling your company, you don't want to wait until you have a buyer to be prepared to sell your company. If part of your plan is to exit, then it doesn't matter if it's just you. It doesn't matter if it's a couple people or 10 people. It doesn't matter if you've not reached the threshold of what you're trying to achieve before you're going to sell it. You need to prepare now by getting everything in place, all the due diligence, so that if somebody does approach you to buy your company, that you've got everything in place in order to do that. This isn't just about paperwork. They're visible declarations of your intent. Intention is very, very powerful, including leading your company. Layer number 5, money doesn't lie. Your money always, always, always reveals the truth. Say you want to step back for a minute, but the budget still runs through you. You're still the bottleneck in those things. That's not commitment. You've got to adjust things. So here's what the shift is going to look like. You're hiring leaders, not helpers. That's a big deal. You're allocating capital towards scalability, not allocating capital towards controlling things. You want to be thinking about scaling big, scaling in the direction you want to go. And so you've got to take your finances and direct it towards those kinds of things. What is it that's going to help you to grow quicker? Maybe it is more qualified people. Maybe it's better technology. Maybe it's a better location. You've got to allocate your capital towards scalability because that's going to be an indicator of where you're going. It might be building a burn runway to support the new phase. So you've got to figure out how many weeks, how many months, maybe how many years it's going to take for your runway of burn, what we call that, in order to get to that new phase. Maybe you have a certain amount of money that's allocated to this next phase of your business, and you've got to make sure that you're managing that runway because it's not going to just come back. Once it's gone, it's gone. You've got to make sure there's enough there to get you to your next phase, right? These are all kind of things you have to plan for. And it all has to do with your money. Your money's not going to lie. Your investments either are going to back your future role or they're going to expose you as still pretending. Layer number 6, and this is the last layer I want to share with you on this video. Here's where it all gets very, very real. Your culture mirrors how you show up. If you're still the hero, they'll wait for a rescue. You can't be the hero. You can't be the center of everything because every time something happens that is difficult or challenging, they're going to be looking to you for the solution instead of you as an owner empowering them, empowering your team, and empowering your staff if they are there to really tackle these things as having an ownership mentality instead of a leasing mentality. I had a meeting with one of my staff members for one of my businesses today, and they're just not just they're an hourly employee, a very important hourly employee that comes in and does very, very important things in one of my businesses. And we had a discussion yesterday, it was on the weekend, about the future of where things going, and they made it very, very clear they want to step up and they want to take real ownership of the opportunity that is in front of them. Here's one of the things I said to them. I said, until this point, you've been clocking in and counting your hours, and those hours calculated into success. You do X number of hours, and that equaled a certain amount of money. Well, now it's going to be different for you, because if you're really going to take ownership in building this and you're going to benefit from the growth of the company, then the hours to me don't matter anymore. The only measure of success is the business being successful. And when the business is successful, that's when you're successful. And I literally said to them, I don't care if you work 100 hours or 2 hours. The time from this day forward makes absolutely no difference to me. The difference is that as you're stepping into this role and you're stepping into a place where you really do take ownership of what you're doing, then it's all about measuring success by the growth of the company. And that's what is before you. And he said, I'm all in on this kind of thing. Well, in that, I'm not the hero anymore. He's not going to come to me for the rescue. After that conversation, he said, well, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And I said, you can do whatever you want. Just don't do these 5 things. But whatever you need to do to grow the company, I get the power to veto, but you get to make the decisions, because again, your success is inherent in the success of the company. And he really got that. Those things are really important, because your staff members and your team members, they really will step up and they will follow your leadership in those things, but you've got to model that for them. And that's how structure really becomes culture, and how culture becomes consistency, which is what you want. You want to take the boat and move it forward along the water and let it just consistently be flowing forward, but you've got to put the things behind it to get it to go in the right direction. But culture alone by itself, it's not going to scale, right? If you want it to stick, you need systems, you need guardrails to protect your culture, and protecting your brand is really the next step. And I've got a full breakdown in my video called Brand Control at Scale. It's there for you. It shows you how to really keep your customer experience consistent without suffocating your team. I put the link in the description for you. The decision is already made. Now make it visible. It's the time to make it visible for yourself and for your staff members. Your team, they really need to see these things. Your systems, they need to enforce it, and your money needs to prove it. But your culture, that's what's going to make it last. And if you're ready to take this deeper with me, go watch Brand Control at Scale. It's where I show you the exact guardrails that you need to scale without breaking what makes your brand really work and what makes your brand something that people really love that you have created. The link is in the description for you, and I will see you there.